Let us start from the line that begins with tynug. That's the seventh line, I think, from the top. Phenomenal union. You have an abbot, and his bind with the master is through Kabbalah Soy, not as a result of his appreciation, the greatness of his master, and so forth. But Kabbalah Soy, he accepts him as his master, and as a result, this creates a union, a bond between them. This acceptance is so profound and so deep in an nefesh organ that he actually has an element of Oneg. It touches him way deeper than the conscious acceptance of the yoke. Touches him at the level of Oneg. Oneg is the life element in the nefesh itself. We know that in the nefesh there are koches hagluim, there's chokhmah bina das, then there's koches makifim, which is rotzen and Oneg. Rotzen and Oneg. The reason that the nefesh has these koches of makifim or rotzen and Oneg is not via its own experience. It is due to the fact that it is a spirit provided by the Creator himself. As we spoke about it already, that the principle of this Kabbalah Soil, the principle that ultimately results and reveals, brings about a rotzen and an Oneg type of relationship to an Eved and the master, is that his relationship with the master defines not only his functional status, but his very true presence in his existence. This is what he is from the conceptual level. And thus, it brings out even the Oneg element. Let me discuss the Oneg a little bit. We started a little bit. Oneg and rotzen are koches makifim. When we begin to focus in and try to understand Oneg and rotzen, we immediately begin to translate it in terms of our experience. The truth is, though, that if not for the fact that there is the element of Oneg, the level of Oneg, in the essence of the nefesh, then no experience could create the Oneg. I'd like to discuss this a little bit because we're going into Oneg, which is an extremely significant and yet so totally elusive in terms of our understanding element. To us, it doesn't make any sense that an abbot should have Oneg from serving his master. That Oneg cannot be created as a result of his experience of being an abbot. The truth is that the principle of Oneg is the representation of the Creator's presence in the created element. Just as, and this is a proper comparison, a hammer that's banging a nail into a piece of wood, and it is a hammer that has banged thousands of nails. It will not give the hammer an appreciation of banging in a nail. Does not become a nail banging hammer. The reason that a human being who is holding this hammer in his hand and becomes more and more adept at doing it more perfectly is due to the fact that in his very essence, as a human being, he appreciates a well banged in or sunk in nail. This appreciation, let's take this the next step and then this appreciation is due to a completely different orientation, a different sense. And the sense is, when you put in a nail into a piece of wood, and you bang two pieces of wood, these are two separate pieces of wood that you bang together. But the intelligence and the nefesh experience of two pieces of wood being held together to the human being is much deeper than that they are put together and held together by a nail. He actually perceives that these two pieces of wood become one as a result. The nail is only complementing their oneness. But essentially, these two pieces of wood are one because they constitute one entity, a table. And he, the human being, appreciates in his nefesh a complete entity called the table. And then he takes two pieces of wood and replicates this entity that he perceives in his nefesh, replicates it in the entity of a table. And therefore, when you bang these two pieces of wood, he's not banging two pieces of wood. He's replicating a table. And a table is a unique concept that incorporates and unites all the pieces that constitute the table. So that the human being perceives the table from a level, from a perception, much prior to its being constructed, much prior to the ability to construct it, but from a concept of perfection, as if the table was born directly as a table. And he, because he has this concept, when he builds a table, he's replicating on a physical level the concept of the table as it exists in his nefesh. Since I mentioned it, I just want to complete it because we already discussed it the other day. The concept of a table to the human being is not a piece of wood banged together. A table is something which is representing the dignity of a human being. He feels uncomfortable eating without a table or sitting in an unorganized situation. This is the Oneg element. The Oneg element comes from the fact that he perceives the truth of what the human being is. The comfort and the dignity is not something that's created as a result of his experience in life. The dignity element in the human being is the divine, is the definition of what a human being is. As we always quote from the Pasuk, the human being is a divine representation. Let's take this to the next step. Make man. If you make man, so it's a novel creature. However, you make it with some in our own form. You can't make it in our form if he is a precarious existence. You have to give him a complete, so to speak, a complete sense of being. I always say a right of being. But Tzameinik in Messiah means he has a divine right of being. Otherwise, he's not Tzameinik in Messiah. This is what the Oneg comes in. The human being senses that his presence as a human being and in the world, in whatever situation he is, that he has to accomplish his task, is a divine level of relationship. We all coming, generally speaking, everybody goes to mikveh. And the Rambam explains the concept behind the mikveh. And he says, the concept behind the mikveh is that one submerges himself. In the expression of the Rambam, b'mei hadas hatoir, in the waters of the pure das. What is the pure das? Pure das means, and submerging. Submerging means he's not merely touching it and being and appreciating it. He's submerging himself into it. Me hadas hatoir, the pure das, the pure element of das. Where is the pure element of das come from? This is the divine das, pure, that cannot become impure. This is why mikveh requires a complete submerging. He is not merely understanding, knowing what he is doing. He has to be submerged and absorbed by it. This is when he's in mikveh. You know the halacha in mikveh, everybody knows, that even if a hair is sticking out of the mikveh, he hasn't been in mikveh. There has to be complete submerge. Complete submerge is alluding to the fact that he is not relating in the relationship beyond super relationship than the way it is in the world. In the world, there is always, if two things are put together, there's always two pieces held together by some means. Submerge, that eliminates the two-piece element. When you eliminate the two-piece element, then you go beyond the seichel and the conscious awareness. How is it possible to eliminate two-piece element? It is to reach up to the level where they're not two pieces to begin with. They're one piece. This is the divine level. When a person, we have seichel and midas. Throughout the process of seichel, it says, there are two things. There is the thing that the seichel, the thing which I understand, and the means by which I understand it. Beyond all that, when a person goes into the depth of the union that he understood, he reaches a level where it is no longer two things come together. He reaches and he sees the Oneg element, the ultimate reason why these two things belong together. Not I found out that they can fit. They belong together. This is the Oneg. They belong together because a divine spirit that says this is the way they should be. Like we said, Hashem said, "Nas order, let's make money." So making money is just a created entity in the world. No, but Tzalmeinik was saying he should replicate our truth, even though he's a creation in the world. In the world, he replicates a divine truth, a divine presence. Therefore, if he replicates a divine presence, the basis of his existence is not due to the put together the 613 different pieces together. It's one unit. And what holds it together is the Oneg element. The glory and beauty and the dignity that comes with this creation. It's American Muslim because he's replicating and representing divine presence. This cannot be created via putting two pieces together. This is just to understand the phenomenon of Oneg. Oneg is not a result of some kind of experimentation or experience. Oneg is present in the human being because of the divine truth that is embedded in the human being. Ultimately, what he understands, his seichel understanding, is due to the fact that there's an Oneg behind this understanding. As you point out many times, sometimes you have a whole discussion You try to explain a certain element, a kasha and a teretz. Well, somebody is locked out. I thought I left it open. Okay. Sorry, yes, sir.
No. It's the guy who's sweeping.
Oh, okay.
I think he saw somebody.
Okay.
I'm sorry. The thief. There's this local thief. I don't know. Not him. He saw somebody.
You saw somebody.
Yeah.
You suspected. Okay. Yes, I said something we experience this an interesting phenomenon. You discuss AYIN, and you go back and forth, and you go through arguments on a seichel level. And you reach a point where you say, oh, that's what you mean, of course. So what happened before? What happened? Where was this all the time? All the time, I was speaking on the seichel level. Now all of a sudden you hit me that this is really the way it should be. I know it from an Oneg perspective, of course. This is a seichel that is reached to a point where you recognize the Oneg behind the seichel. There's an interesting phenomenon in the physical world. Everything that is a natural entity in the world has an element of oil in it. What's really holding it together is the oil element. A rock has oil in it. This oil, this is the principle that this was created to be one entity. Okay. And that is the Oneg. And this is what the Rebbe says. The Eved has Oneg in serving his master. How can a Rebbe have Oneg in his master? It is represented in the Inyan that this relationship between the Eved and the master has a truth behind it. Has a divine truth behind it. Okay, I got the question. That I see that I have to take the next step. What is divine truth behind the Eved and the master? We have to speak on a very simple level, and eventually we'll tell you, oh yeah, of course. The creation of man, of a human being, is a divine creation. And it consists in this creature, this human being, has a mission in the world. He has to be functional in the world. To the extent that he will appreciate and build the whole world, as he described in the creation. Now, okay, I hope you can follow this. When a person encounters a broken table, and he said, a broken table, let me fix it. As he is fixing the table, he is actually correcting a missing link, a broken table. What is the initiator of this activity? The inyan that he recognized that this is a broken table, and it should be, and he can correct it. There is no conceptual element in there. It is all due to his personal recognition that this is a broken table and he has to be fixed. This experience, it's a broken table, let me fix, does not begin from the Oneg element, it begins from the Seichel element. However, the absolute truth of the human beings in the world is that this is a divine mission, that he should correct things that are wrong in the world. There's an Oneg buttress behind this whole concept. There's a divine principle behind it. It is not something that it bothers him on the Seichel level. In order that he should bypass, so to speak, his own Seichel, his own decision, this is how it has to be done. What breaks through this, what eliminates this separateness, and it reveals the union in it? It is when he has a master that tells him what to do. When the master tells him what to do, he does not base his activity on his own recognition that this has to be fixed. Then he bases activity into, this is the way it has to be. This is where the union of the master and the abbot complement the whole phenomenon of the world. He does something and he perceives this, what he's doing, to be a truth and a union before he even starts. Because he was told like that by the master. To take this on the broader scale, this is the phenomenon in our life, that there is a teacher and a student. The teacher is the one who connects the student to the essence of what he's learning. The student then knows it not from the seichel level, but from the essential, from the Oneg level. And as far as we are concerned, this is the relationship between Rebbe and Chassid. But we don't appreciate and recognize things because we discovered the imperfection of it. We have to correct it. We know them from a perfection perspective, level. This is what the Rebbe said this should be done, this is what the Rebbe said. This is the perfect, the oil element, so to speak, in this activity. Okay, I took it to its fulcrum. And this is why when an abbot is serving his master, it reaches all the way to the point that there is an Oneg. And we're starting from the line that begins with the word tynug. Mashal Rotzon, but whenever there is a tynug in the fact that he complements the Rotzon order. This is in fact the principle of Simcha Shal Mitzvah, the joy that comes in doing a mitzvah. The Bekim and Mitzvah B'Peil Mamash, which means this will have several starts and continue. Bekim and Mitzvah B'Peil Mamash, in performing the Mitzvah B'Peil Mamash, in actual fact, in the action of mitzvah. It's a very simple action. Tzorich Lid was a simcha. Therein there has to be simcha. In simply performing this simple action. Ukmei Shekos, as the Pasuk says, Tach Shali Avalto B'Simcha T'Bleiva. Because you did not serve Hashem B'Simcha T'Bleiva, which means that serving Hashem has to be B'Simcha T'Bleiva. This action, this simple action, elicits a simcha. The Rebbe there puts in, so to speak, another notch. Even though the Aveda B'Simcha or the Aveda B'Simcha, that the Aveda B'Simcha, that the joy in the Aveda, he bekavonos ha-mitzvahs. The joy in the joy in the Aveda is not the simple action, but the kavanah of the mitzvah, the intent behind the mitzvah. Yes. I can make me a little clear. One second, I can't hear you.
Who is it? Speak up, please.
On Oneg in the higher levels, is there any sense of enjoyment like we understand Oneg in the physical matter?
Do it again. Oneg in what?
Oneg in the higher level, is there also a form of enjoyment as we understand Oneg on the physical level?
Oh, in other words, can you experience the Oneg of the higher level?
Because really what you're describing is more of a fact.
That's right. I hear what you're saying. All right. There's a story of the Alter Rebbe and the Malach. The Alter Rebbe and the Malach were involved in some kind of a deep concentration. And this involvement has brought them to a very, very deep, high level, all the way to the level of Oneg. They were no longer in the seichel process. They got into the Oneg elements. And the story goes that the Alter Rebbe suddenly realized that something that we're going way beyond that which they can tolerate. To the point that they are going to lose their neshama. The neshama will just rise out of the group. So the Alter Rebbe quickly took a bagel, and he took a bite of the bagel, and he gave the Magid, the Malach, Babra Malach also a bite of the bagel, and thereby saving his physical life. So this is the answer to your question. Can it be recognized? Yes, it can be recognized. But it was recognized it's not beyond our Keilah to contain.
That's Oneg?
Huh?
That's the Oneg you're talking about?
That's it. It completely goes out of the materials of the world.
We have some kind of a sense of this, not at that level though.
We do. That's what I said before. After understanding something, after struggling on something, says, oh yeah, of course. Oh yeah, of course. This is where you sense there is some kind of a truth behind this whole thing.
Hello?
Yes, hello?
Yeah. So that's on the issue of faith in general. I'm going back to over 90 years, because here's a very good position that sequential is the accent from Kabul soil. The main thing is that one receives the Kabul soil. But, I mean, when you visualize the invasion of that, it is associated more with Islamics and a lineage of medicine and the way that Kabul soil translates is more of a symptom element. There's no expressions in Kabul soil. How would one get the Kabul soil the expression of this to accept that it should be? So the second question is the wording alone. Raging is the essence of pleasure. Simcha is revealed pleasure.
All right, we'll come back to the next question. This is something which demanded an explanation inside. Let me explain a general principle here. When we learn something very deep, and we are so deeply involved, and it really reveals to us, so to speak, a truth beyond logic. Even if it reveals to us a truth beyond logic, we still relate to it to its logical structure, because that's what seichel is. Oh yeah, of course it makes sense. The minute we say it makes sense, we think of all the things that make it, that put it together. Let's take it in a model that we had before. You put pieces of wood together and make a table. And you say, when you put the pieces together, making a table, these two pieces become one entity. Conceptually, despite the fact that conceptually become one entity, you still know that the only way for it to be is by putting two pieces together. There's a story of the Maggid, and lately we've been talking about it. That the Maggid was able to recognize on a chair, on some kind of a structure, that the person who built it had a certain defect in one of his eyes. In other words, he was able to recognize in the final product the Oneg element that was imbued in its construction. So here's where you have, on the final product level, a product that came as a result of a physical structure. And yet the Oneg itself surfaces through this action. But there are two requirements for this. Number one, that the master, the craftsman who put it together, was a real craftsman, really appreciated fully what he's doing. And you have to have a Maggid who can identify it.